Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining today. Let's go ahead and do some introductions. So my name is Ella Eng. I'm a senior customer success manager with Totango. We've been with the company for the last few years. But my background for the last 15 years has been in customer success and professional services. These are all of the great customers that I work with. I see a lot of your faces up here. And then just a fun fact about myself is that I used to travel a lot for work and for pleasure. So I think my count right now is about like maybe 26, 27. I don't know the exact count, but I'll just say that I've traveled to about 20 plus countries.
I'm Kristen Hallas, and I am with Monster. I have been with Monster for 19 years, and I am the senior manager of customer success. My fun fact is that I am born and raised Hoosier. I've gotten a lot of people asking me if I'm from the South. Not from the South, from the little bit higher up, but we recently just relocated to Arizona, where it's just sunny and hot all the time. Can't get enough of it.
I'm going to try and visit her someday.
Yeah.
It's a state that I've actually never been to. So what we're going to talk about today is management one-on-ones, the importance of it, and we're also going to talk about it having an effective meeting structure. Then we'll get into how we would use Totango as a management tool and unlocking the visibility there. And Kristen is going to talk about how they have successfully applied Totango as a management tool. And then we'll end with some key takeaways as well as some questions. So management one-on-ones. So here's a quote from Elizabeth Grace Saunders. She is the author of How to Invest Your Time Like Money and the founder of Real Life E-Time Coaching and Training. I'll give you all a moment to review this, to read this on your own. So in the digital age that we're in, a lot of times our managers are speaking to their direct reports via digital channels, right? So it's a lot of email, phone conversations, IM, text messaging. But one-on-ones are really one of the most important productivity tools that you have as a manager in your arsenal. It gives you the opportunity to ask strategic questions like, are we really focused on the right things? As well as building that relationship and showing your employees that you really value and care about them. So here are some of the common mistakes that happen in one-on-one meetings. So with any meeting, a lack of structure, right? So with any meetings, if you don't have an effective agenda or with a purpose, it's not going to go well. And the same thing applies to one-on-ones, especially one-on-ones. So you always want to make sure that we're setting the right expectations on what we're looking to discuss. That way, we can plan for that, because there might be some prep work that needs to happen for some of the accounts that we might be talking about. No accountability. So when you're spending a lot of time actually creating action plans and action items, and you're not actually following through on them, then there's no accountability with no defined timelines. Things are just going to linger on forever, or they're just not going to happen. Oftentimes, as CSMs or just in customer success, there's a lot of competing interests, right? There's no shortage of fires that might be happening with our customers sometimes. So there's a lot of competing interests, which leads to frequent rescheduling. And when that happens, you're really losing that value that you're trying to create with having these one-on-one conversations. Other times, there's a lack of alignment. So we need to make sure that we all are on the same page with what we're trying to accomplish as a team, as well as an organization. So we need to make sure that we are aligned here with our business objectives and the KPIs, and they're aligned to the business's business objectives and KPIs. And we're looking not to make this a one-sided conversation, because then it ends up just being a delegation session, right? So make sure it's collaborative. There's a lot of information. The CSM is really important. They know their customers the best. So let's go ahead and review how to structure an effective one-on-one. Meeting cadence. Make sure that you're blocking out time with your CSMs to have these conversations. Prioritize them and make sure you have a very focused agenda. What do we want to accomplish? Which accounts are we going to talk about? Are we talking about renewals? Are we talking about escalations? Are we talking about expansion opportunities? A lot of times it's very easy to talk about what might not be going well with your accounts, but you want to make sure that you're always celebrating the wins. Because when you're celebrating the wins, it actually reinforces good behavior, right? Positive behaviors and outcomes. And make sure that you're letting your team shine, because it also provides content and skill building for other members of the team. Use this time to collaborate and problem solve together on the business objectives and challenges. Oh, whoops. Sorry. And be a coach and a mentor. You want to provide that guidance to help them be an even better CSM. And make sure that you show gratitude and appreciation. Your team works really, really hard to show them what they need, and they'll do better work for you, for your team, for your customers, and ultimately the business. And inspect what you expect. So again, we're putting in a lot of time creating these action plans and these action items. You want to make sure that you're following through on them, right? Follow up on these. Start measuring the results. Have that accountability that we're looking for. So let's get into how we would use Totango as a management tool, as well as unlocking that visibility. So no surprise here, we talk about it all the time, but we're looking to drive these measurable results. We've heard it a lot throughout these 2 days. Tango Insights. So there's a lot of information that we're pulling into Totango to give you that digital view of your customer. And we're also putting in all of the engagement touch points within the tool. So this is going to give you a lot of insights into determining what are the CSMs doing to move the business forward. It'll also help you, there's a lot of information, data insights here. You want to be able to, we'll be able to identify any risks and opportunities that's going to impact our client lifetime value. And within success blocks, how many of you guys are aware of what success blocks are? Everybody? Yay. And everybody implementing success blocks? Who hasn't implemented a success block yet? Not yet? Okay. How many has not? We would definitely encourage you guys to do one if you have not. And we have Meet the Experts right after this session, and we can certainly help you get started. Or not. I'm getting a shaking the head in the back, so just kidding. Okay, so in success blocks, it's a place where we can go ahead and organize your goals, your KPIs, as well as your processes that are needed to achieve these goals. So it'll help you drive value-based, results-oriented customer success practices. So if you're looking at team performance, so some of the objectives here would be, we're looking to understand how the team is engaging with their clients, with your clients. We're looking for that tighter alignment and accountability for client success. And then we're looking to understand what those best practices are, right? So we're looking to optimize the customer success practice based on these data-driven insights. And the measurement system that we have would be, we want to make sure that we're logging those meaningful client engagements as touch points within the system. We want to make sure that we're completing those tasks that we're kicking off through the success plays, those processes that we're running. And when we're creating those strategic account plans, we want to make sure that we're documenting them and we're targeting our client outcomes and objectives. So I'm going to break this out into, we're going to be having those management one-on-one conversations, and what would we be doing prior to the session and then what we will be doing during the session. So within Totango, our managers are going to want to look at the work focus. So it's within the team spotlight area that gives you a breakdown of what the CSMs are working on within a team, right? So what have they been focused on? Are they focusing on the right things? Has it been onboarding? Has it been support? Has it been has it been escalations or expansions? Then we can go ahead and review the team dashboard segments. So we can create all these segments, and when you create a segment, you're going to see all of the different accounts, but we have the ability to filter it just on the CSM or the resource that is in question, and we've got the different breakdown views. So you can look at the progress view for any workflow progression that you may have set up. The timeline view is going to give you a great view for those accounts, for all of the recent engagements. And then the work view will give us the recent task activity, right? So we can break it down into what's open, what have we done, what have we completed, what might still need to be completed and is overdue, or what might be coming up. And then during the session, you're going to talk about it together, right? Again, prioritize. So we want a focused agenda based on that's going to be aligned to what your business objectives are going to be, right? So are we talking about renewals? Are we talking about the onboarding? We're going to prioritize based on that and review the segments that we're creating. Okay? So we're going to talk about what is going well, also talk about any obstacles the CSM might be facing within those programs and or processes. And then review those team dashboards together, right? Dive into those accounts that you need to dive into, right, if there's an issue. And then you can take that time to strategize and even create action items, right? So what are the action plans? What are the next steps? What do we need to do? What is that time frame that we need to do it in? Are there any risks and obstacles in our way? Do we need to engage other stakeholders? And do we have any additional opportunities? So this is a view within Totango, the team spotlight into the work focus area. So we can see within our success team, who are the different CSMs, and what have they been focused on, right? So we can see those semicircles there. So we can see all of the different activities that our CSMs are focused on, and you'll be able to determine what their focus area is, and does that align to your expectation of the work that they should be doing. And we can adjust it by time frame as well. So you get a view into what's completed, what might be overdue. And then over on the right, we've got a scorecard, onboarding in this example. So this is something that's new. For those of you that are not aware, but we're also able to filter those scorecards today on right? So typically we just generally see this as a team within the team, like all the information for the team. We now have the ability to say, what does it look like for me? Or what does it look like for a particular CSM, okay? So we can definitely start using these in our one-on-one conversations and select the CSM that we're looking at. So these are the team dashboard views. So these are all the different segments that we can be creating. And if we've set up a workflow, like these mini life cycle stages, as I like to call them, so for onboarding, Kristen's looking at me because she's like, yes. She talks about that all the time. So in onboarding, we might have a kickoff phase that might lead to maybe some time for planning, and then we'll move into configuration, then ultimately we're going to go live and then complete the onboarding process. So if we're setting up one of these workflows within Totango, then we can actually go to the progress view for those advanced segments that we'll be creating and filter it for the CSM and kind of see how are they doing within their processes, right? So this is that focused agenda. So what are we talking about? We're going to have a success block for each of the items that we're interested in, right? Like expansions and our renewals and onboarding. And then we'll create all of these segments, and then we can actually walk through with the CSMs, like, where are we? Where are we with this, right? Are we progressing? And what's great about these life cycle stages, again, as I like to call them, is once we actually move our accounts through the life cycle stages, Totango is actually tracking the time in between each of these stages. So this is the opportunity where you can say, hey, so one of your accounts is still in kickoff. They've been in kickoff for 10 days. That's probably a little bit too long. We need to start moving things. So great place to kind of have visibility into the time frames that they're within each of these stages so you can ensure that we're progressing along. Then we have the timeline view. So again, for the same segments, we can actually see what are the different touch points here that have been happening with our customers, as well as what is the work that we need to be doing and that is left to do, right? So making sure that we're moving along and progressing along with all of these. And again, narrowing it down to the CSM. Okay, so let's talk about driving on-time renewals. Objectives here would be one of our really large business outcomes, right? Objectives here would be earlier detection and planning for our upcoming renewals, super important for us, making sure that we have a repeatable and scalable process for how we're handling this. And our measurement system would be getting a higher renewal rate, fewer overdue renewals, not really going to be good if they're overdue, and ultimately less uncertainty into the health of our business, right? More predictability. So again, breaking it down to prior to the actual one-on-one and then what we could be doing during the one-on-ones would be, we can go ahead and again set up one of these workflow mini life cycle stages for renewals at risk. So if our accounts are at risk, we might be taking them through some of these stages, right? We're going to identify when there's a high risk renewal. We might want to get them into, we're going to research it, right? Figure out what's going on, work with the sales reps. Get them into a recovery stage. Ultimately, we want to get to a mutual plan with the customer, have this conversation with them. Let's figure out how we're going to resolve this, right? If this renewal is at risk. And then ultimately, we're going to get to an end stage. And that could be a successful end stage as well as an unsuccessful end stage, right? So the successful one would be we've closed one and we're going to get that renewal. And an unsuccessful one, we might have a confirmed cancel. Not great for us as a business, as a team, as an individual. However, we definitely want to track that. And then we want to make sure that the CSMs are adding notes and comments as renewal touch points so that we can kind of take a look at it. And then during the one-on-ones, we're going to set these up in order of priority, right? And review it in order of priority. Let's take a look at the at-risk renewals team dashboard segments. Understand where are we with all of these accounts that might be at risk for renewal. Take a look at any of the follow-up actions or account plans that we've created, including the ones that you discussed in the last one-on meeting, right? Because this is going to be a regular thing that we're going to be reviewing with as a team and during your one-on-ones. Then we might want to track the on-track renewals in poor health, figure out, is there a risk for those? They seem to be on track, but let's dive a little bit deeper into it. And of course, you want to focus on make sure that you're having some visibility into all of your other renewals that are happening. So a success block view of this for renewals would be, we can certainly set up one of these life cycle stages, and we can see that over on the right. But taking a look at the scorecard, we're going to want to ensure that we've got some high renewal. We're going to want to make sure that we have a high renewal rate. We can see what our renewable contract value is, like say for this quarter. We can see it's 1.22 million. And then quarter to date, we're going to want to see and have visibility into what has renewed, and on the flip side, what might have churned. Okay, so we can actually track that for that time period, like say this quarter. And then on the bottom, we've got closing renewals on time. So we can get a view into any of the overdue renewals that we might have, and as well as what is that ARR at risk, right? So we've got, if we're narrowing it down to our CSM, we can kind of see, maybe for the team there might be 11, but for an individual CSM there might be 2 or 3, right? So, and then any of the laggard renewals. So are there any contract renewal dates that might be coming up that we have not addressed and we have not closed yet? Then again, these life cycle stages, taking a look at all of the different segment views, right? The progress view for workflow progress, timeline view for the touch points and the engagements, and then we have the tasks. So what work do we have remaining? What work have we completed? And that brings us to Monster
Awesome.
and Kristen.
Awesome, thank you. So as Ella had mentioned, all of that great information we have actually implemented utilizing Totango to help me have more effective one-to-ones with my customer success advisors. I don't know how many of you were in our Monster turnaround session yesterday, but I did mention that we have a small group or a small team of 6 customer success advisors. We have an untraditional customer success model, I would call it. We have to support as many accounts as we can within Monster's business in each of our segments. In order to do so, we have set out different projects that the team works on. So they work on onboarding, mitigating risk, and adoption are our 3 key areas at this time. And inside of there, we set different parameters on what accounts we're going to take on as a project within those key areas. So for me, this has been really impactful for me to be able to have a more meaningful and strategic conversation with my customer success advisor because they have a lot of moving pieces. It allows me to understand what is still open, where are some areas that I can help them, and it allows me to have a conversation that is being more of a mentor with them. I don't know what happened. Okay. Being more of a mentor instead of asking on the phone, where are you with this project? What's, the timeline? And acting as if I'm micromanaging everything they're doing. The other thing that I'll say is that at Monster, we have a lot of disparate data sources. So before Totango, we might start a conversation on one account, and it takes us 30 to 40 minutes to figure out what is the history on the account, what products did the customer purchase, have they been a long-time customer, are they a new customer, where are they in the onboarding process, what's the current usage and health, all of those things, and we're already 40 minutes into an hour conversation, and we've only just begun the conversation on one account. So this has helped us to have more conversations around multiple accounts. We can quickly, in 5 minutes or so, dive in and get through all of those questions that I just asked or talked about, and really get to what is the action that we need to take and where can I help them drive further action if it's needed. So I'm going to spend just a couple of quick minutes walking you through how we utilize. So Ella talked about a lot of different areas that you can use from the console to see their work. I utilize segments. So inside of the segments, I use the 3 different views, typically between the list, the progress, and the work. And it just allows me to have one spot where I can just have that quick conversation. So what you can see here inside of the list view is all of the accounts that we have assigned to a CSA. This is going to show me for any project customer success manager that we have assigned. Then as Ella said, if I'm hopping on the phone in 2 minutes, I can easily from this view click down here on the all accounts and I can select one individual. So if I we'll just select Paul. If I select to Paul's accounts, now it's going to load and just show me what accounts Paul has. So I can get a quick snapshot of what is the health of the accounts that Paul has, how many accounts does he have, how much revenue is he supporting, and then I can get a tablet view of all the details that I want to see. As you know, inside of a segment, you can continue to edit the columns and add additional columns, and I'll show you where that comes into play for me here in just a second. So if I go over to the progress view, as Ella said, we use the life cycles to help us find that consistency. So this has really helped me in my one-to-one conversations to be able to say in this progress view to Paul, I see, Paul, that you have an account that renewed in July and it's still sitting in the discovery bucket. The discovery bucket for us is really just internal research to understand what's going on with the customer's contract. And at this point in time, we're a couple months in from that. We really should have moved on to the next bucket. So it's a great opportunity for me to say, hey, what's going on with this account? Why haven't we moved it into the next life cycle or the next bucket? And start to have those conversations again, instead of me coming off as, why aren't you doing what you're supposed to do? There could be a very good reason why it's set in this bucket still. So that's how I leverage the progress tab. And then over to the work tab, as Ella stated, this allows me to see the actual work that's either been completed, still uncompleted, on each of the accounts. So inside of here, I can again filter on looking at all. I can move from Paul to someone else. I can also filter on a specific success flow. So for this example, I have it set right now for onboarding. But if I wanted to just look at all of his tasks, or I wanted to look at just the adoption lifecycle, I can filter through there. And then I can also look at just things that are open and closed and have a conversation on what's been done. When I start to go down in here, there's a couple of things that I want to call out. So we have just started leveraging Totango at the start of 2019 for our customer success team. So part of it is also an adoption of the tool. And I can have those conversations again just through the use of this segment without coming off as if I am like, are you using the tool? How often are you using it? Are you putting all the right information in? So here, a good example is that Paul, for this account, has 2 success plays open, a discovery and a customer engagement and training. I know that the way we have the system set up, that once Paul moves out of the discovery into the customer engagement lifecycle, he should also be closing out or completing the discovery success play. Therefore, he should never have more than 1 success play open. So it gives me the opportunity to say, hey, why do we still have 2 open? Maybe that's an adoption, issue that he's just forgotten how to close the things out. Where do I go to close it? And we can do that within a matter of seconds on the phone together and talk about, hey, you can just hit the green check mark, excuse me, mark it as complete, put all of your notes in there, and it's done. Instead of me telling him, go back and do it, giving him a few days to go back and do it, doesn't get done, and we're back and forth. So that's one way that we can use it. The other thing is, as you can see here, it has overdue. Is there a reason why something's overdue? Maybe in this case, he says, well, excuse me, I just can't get the customer to engage. I can't get them to answer the phone. We need to do some training with them, but I'm having a hard time, connecting with them. The sales rep hasn't, connected with me or reached out. And maybe that's an opportunity for me to step in as his manager to help drive some of those conversations. From here, I can go right over here and take action, and I can create a task, and I can create that for myself, all while we're on the phone, to say, I need to reach out to X, Y, and Z for Paul to ensure that we can get this customer on the phone and get them trained. So I, having 6 people and hundreds of accounts, don't have to use a piece of paper, come back and remember that I need to, follow up with the sales rep on Paul's behalf. And this will go automatically into my work tab so that I can see all the things that I have and I can prioritize how I need to help them. The last thing here is that it allows us, like I said, we have a lot of different data systems. So in this view, I'm able to see not only the details on the task here, but over here I'm able to see just a snippet of whatever it was that I had in that table. So as we're talking through and Paul says, I'm not really sure what else I need to be doing with this customer, I can say, well, they look like they're in poor health. What products did they have? When did they renew, or when do they renew? We can have all those conversations all looking at this one screen right here, because we can pull in as many fields inside of that table that I need to. So this has allowed, again, me to have a more strategic conversation in a matter of a couple of seconds, instead of, okay, let me go back into Salesforce and see what our order is. Let me go back into this, our other reporting tool and pull all of the data. Let me go here, here, and here. I can at least just start that conversation right from this view. So I think we're good to go back to the slides.
Great, thank you. So we want to talk about some of the key takeaways here. So from a manager-employee relationship success, some of the key takeaways would be, you want to make sure that you're setting an example and holding the team accountable and engaged. If you're using Totango as a manager to measure results and to see what's happening with the task, then your team is going to start using it, right? Because they're being measured on these tasks and engagements. And make sure you use Totango as a tool to drive strategic planning and execution. It's a great opportunity for you to get into those strategic conversations with your CSM collaboratively, which leads to?
For me, it's led to much better and more meaningful conversations with my CSAs, which ultimately will lead to a happier employee. And if you have a happier employee, it's going to lead to more productivity and better productivity from them, which ultimately helps lead to more customer and customer success within both your employees and your company, as well as your customers. So it's been a great way for us to have those engagements and make it much more meaningful.
I think that ties in really well also with the metrics that matter session that we talked about yesterday, for those of you that were in that session, right? Having that satisfied and engaged employee, ultimately leading to that business outcomes supply chain. Yeah. So I think we're going to open it up for some questions.
Well, first, thanks for sharing. It's very useful to me, actually. My question is, do you use Team Spotlight to meet with your team members, and do you set kind of a goals for your team member, like typically how many success actually the tasks they have generated from the play on a daily basis? I'm trying to see if it's like 30 is too much, or 9 is too little.
So I'll answer first. I do not use the Team Spotlight, and the biggest reason why is because the way that we have our business set up, we're setting up those, deploying those success plays for blocks of things that they should be doing, but the team is also inside of there setting their own task for themselves. So when we get into the customer engagement and training, there is like a list of things that they should be doing, but not every customer is the same or equal. So they may have trainings, or they may have a best practice session, or job ad rewrites, different things that they do. So they will then go in and say, I've done all my research, this customer needs to have a job ad rewrite, and they will then put in a task for themselves to do the job ad rewrite specifically. So setting those goals would be skewed for me, because some have more tasks than others, just depending upon how they're using it themselves. That's why I really use the segments to have that conversation. But we also do, where Ella had shown, we utilize the scorecards. So all of it does get rolled up to be able to say, how many accounts are they supporting? What is their, the current health of the accounts that they have? And then I'm able to drill down, as she showed, into each individual and see what all of their KPIs are as well there.
So I'll add that, we don't want to think of it as like a quantity thing, right? If we're going to be deploying tasks, we don't want to inundate our CSMs with too many tasks, right? But they should make sense, right? So we're not going to put in, you have the ability, you want to organize them logically, right? So we're not going to do, each step should have its own task if it doesn't make sense, if it's within a different time frame. Organize the tasks that are going to make sense from these success flows. From these success plays.
Yeah, so I have team members in different cities and states and things like that, and multiple people touching accounts at the same time. And a lot of times I find that our team members are using other channels to communicate about customers, like Slack or GChat or whatever it may be. What are some best practices that you might use at Monster or just in general with Totango to kind of streamline all of that communication in Totango, whether it's in real time or semi-real time?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we have, actually my entire team is remote across the country, so they're spread out as well. We have our, if you were in the session yesterday, you would have heard we have our North American small business and mid-market sales reps in Totango, but we do not have our larger enterprise sales reps in there, but our customer success team does support those segments of the business. So it is a challenge that we have. I really, for myself, that's where I use my one-to-ones to drive my team to ensure that everything is just getting documented from our side inside of Totango. We have Totango set up to integrate with Salesforce. So all of the tasks and touch points that they are putting into Totango will go over into Salesforce. So where a sales rep is not, if we have a sales rep not in Totango, they will still see everything that's in Totango inside of their Salesforce instance. There are still challenges that we will have IMs or Skypes, but when we're having a conversation, or I'm having a conversation, if I find that there is something in there, I'll say, hey, make sure you get that note in there. It's just a lot of a reminder, but that's the best way, and then we have everything holistically showing in our Salesforce, record for all those that aren't in Totango.
So I'll add that when we're looking at things in the timeline, these should be all of the meaningful touch points that you have there. So if someone's actually taking a look at this account, what do they want to see? I don't think they're going to want to see every single interaction, right? Because that just becomes noise, right? So think about like summary level information and really important, meaningful touch points that should live there.
Yeah.
All right, and I think so. I think we're at time. So thank you so much. What I would just add is that anyone that did win a Hero Award from yesterday, if you could go next door, I believe there's some additional pictures that are being taken right now. So that announcement. But thank you so much. And any final words?
No, we'll be available. So if you have any additional questions, please come find us. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.